Good morning, everyone. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessments and taxing districts for which the said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that are indicated a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. Items followed with an asterisk indicate that there's material attached to the agenda. So it is 10 a.m. at this time. Kylie, can you please take the roll?
Supervisor Howard?
Present.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Here.
Vice Chair Cowan?
Here.
And I'll make note that Chair Hemmingson is absent today.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to take a moment of reflection. And if you would, Supervisor Berkowitz, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Introductions of new employees. Jay, do we have anybody today?
We do. I believe Joel will take it from here.
Yes. Autumn, who should be raising her hand now. You've all interacted with Autumn in her capacity with Black Rice and Luna, representing other local boards. She's a local and an excellent attorney, and I'm extremely proud to introduce her as the new Assistant County Counsel. Autumn, you want to say a word?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Well, I am just so pleased to be here this morning as your new Assistant County Counsel. And I have been reflecting on my time with Del Norte County over the last couple of days, sort of in preparation for saying hello to you all in my new capacity. And it came as a bit of a shock to me to realize that this community has been my home since 1992. That's 28 years now. So it has been my home even when I moved away to go to college. It is near and dear to me. And so it is a real honor to be able to serve this community that I love so much, and to do it with all of you who clearly love it as much as I do. So thank you for that opportunity. And I also just wanted to send a little shout out to all of the team members here who have made me feel so welcome. IT and HR and building and maintenance, and of course my close team here, Cindy, Joel, and Jackie, have really made this transition an easy one and a fun one. So I want to thank them for welcoming me, and thank you all for welcoming me this morning.
Thank you, Autumn. We're excited to have you. Welcome.
Welcome aboard, Autumn.
Thank you.
Yes, to you, Autumn.
Anybody else, Jay? Any other new employees?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda. In order to add an item to the agenda, the matter must have come to the attention of the county subsequent to the posting of the agenda, and the matter requires action before the next regular meeting. Gentlemen, is there anything at this time? No? Okay. We're going to go on to brief reports. These are reports of projects and goals and meetings that supervisors have attended. And we start with Supervisor Berkowitz.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairman. Last week, I attended the monthly meeting of the Crescent City Del Norte County Chamber of Commerce. The director reported that we're seeing strong visitation from all areas of the county and that occupancy rates for our area lodging facilities remain strong. In addition, our tall trees map has been printed. Our net profit from the sales of the maps is $12,000. And when I say our, I'm talking about the Chamber of Commerce. Even though there was some inclement weather, the sea cruise was a success. And it looks like the Chamber of Commerce will net about $12,500 from this event. It should be noted that a travel writer visited our area during Sea Cruise weekend and was very impressed. She stayed at the beautiful vacation home on Pebble Beach Drive, dined at Port-au-Prince and Sequence, and had breakfast at Fisherman's Restaurant, and participated in many of the other areas that we have to offer. Yesterday, I attended a meeting of the Redwood Coast Transit Authority. We approved a resolution approving RCTA's fiscal budget for 2021. The project list for over $42,000 in Senate Bill 1 was repair funding for bus stop improvements, and that was all approved. It was reported that after several years of ridership losses, RCTA reversed its long trend of ridership losses with a 10% gain over fiscal year 2017-18. And that's my report, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, a busy couple of weeks since our last meeting. First attended a 2x2 with the Talo Dini Nation, and Supervisor Hemmingson, CEO Serena also joined us. At issue and concern to the Taloa was the recent letter that they had received from the Smith River Fire Protection District, basically stating that they would no longer serve the Taloa Dini Nation and their fire services. And so hopefully they're working towards resolution of some of those issues, but the county did offer help and assistance in negotiating potentially a resolution to that issue. Also continued discussions around sudden oak death and treatment of the area along Highway 197 with Green Diamond, Caltrans, University Cooperative Extension, and the County Department of Agriculture. In addition, met with a constituent over significant concerns in the coastal zone and actions being taken by the California Coastal Commission, and hoping to find some resolution in ways that the county could support the actions of the constituent to resolve those matters. Also had a meeting of the First Five Families Commission and approved a home visitation coordination grant. And then also spent a great deal of time with the CSAC Rural Counties Caucus in discussion and moving with Dr. Galley of the State Department of Health, who helps set guidelines or does set guidelines for the state around coronavirus. At issue there is discussions, which we'll discuss later with Dr. Raywald, of adding a death metric into the calculations for the state of California. So communities like ours that have had very little hospitalizations or very little death could advance quicker on the color scales of opening. There seems to be some movement in that area, but CSAC did have a great deal of response and resolution for rural counties by allowing us to lower our population estimate and find an exemption for any community that's rural under 106,000 people. Also spoke to Dr. Raywald at great length on that same subject. Had a meeting with Supervisor Cowan at the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, where we extended a contract for Recology Del Norte. And in addition, had a meeting of the Del Norte Resource Conservation District. Also attended and met with various constituents over Measure R. And then in addition, various discussions with constituents over Highway 199 and 197. And then also concerns with folks in District 3 with marijuana grows and had some significant conversations with Dominique Miller, a blight enforcement officer, about some of these areas in District 3 outside the coastal zone that currently have not been permitted. And that's it for now, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you. Well, our Pride in Community concluded week 13. That's the final week until next spring. These volunteers have helped the city out significantly. Last Saturday, the volunteers engaged in painting the backboard of Rocky Peterson baseball field. And I want to thank Carlos Duran for his painting expertise, and Norman Black Insurance for her generous contribution to provide the matching paint. And thank you to Crescent Ace Hardware for a substantial professional discount to allow these events to take place. Our group of volunteers will reorganize this spring and assist the city in maintaining these valuable services. Volunteers will be honored at the Monday, November 2nd City Council Zoom meeting that will take place. And again, a big thanks to all of those who participate, and there's quite a list of those people. Our Citizens Advisory Committee at Pelican Bay State Prison met via Skype for the first time since February. San Quentin, it was reported, has a major COVID-19 problem, and CDCR, that's the Corrections and Rehabilitation Department, is considering moving healthy inmates to other institutions. Warden James Robertson shared the possibility that perhaps 20 to 30 level 2 inmates would be transferred to Pelican Bay. At this point, Pelican Bay remains only one of 2 institutions among the 35 in the CDCR system that has remained COVID-free among the inmate population. Staff infections among employees have been minimal. Currently, all but 1 staff have returned to work. The inmate population through CDCR continues to plummet across the 35 institution system, just over 92,000. And the Pelican Bay State Prison current inmate count is 2,103. The Emergency Medical Services group, our group met for its quarterly meeting last Thursday. Among items discussed was the status of the trauma center fee payments. I also had some questions for Del Norte Ambulance Operating Area request, which whether it does include a contract to address 911 calls and ambulance travel transfers, that's ALS and BLS ambulance transfers. It was not fully answered to my satisfaction, but we have returned or we have released $5,000 of the annual $20,000 exclusive area agreement fee, and that's been released to the EMS board. Finally, the board agreed to meet in special meeting Thursday, November 5th via Zoom to discuss the budget and other personnel matters. The budget will be discussed in open session. Personnel matters will be discussed in closed session. Our Redwood Coast Transit Authority met last night and discussed its annual report. After several years of ridership losses, the RCTA actually experienced, as we've learned, a 10% gain to 110,000 riders, only unfortunately to have those gains wiped out by the COVID pandemic. The current ridership is 88,000 to this point. And finally, as the November 3rd election looms, I recognize there are lots of items from which you must and will vote on. Some are somewhat controversial. I urge all of you to exercise your constitutional right and vote next week. And that's my report.
Thank you. I had a pretty light week. Was able to take off for a week and spend with my husband, which was much needed. After I got back, there was an Area 1 on Aging meeting. As Supervisor Howard pointed out, we had a solid waste meeting. Safety concerns out at the landfill. That was the topic and most of the conversation during that meeting. There definitely are some concerns and safety issues out there that we're working on. And I hope it gets better because it's not a good situation. Had several or many calls with constituents regarding the hotel. All primarily good, which was great. A couple concerns, but I think most people understand what we're doing and clarification of what is actually happening out there. Heather and Snow and I also had a conversation regarding that. And then I did agenda review for this meeting, and that's it for me. So we will move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can I report an action from closed session before we move on?
sorry about that. Thank you.
That's okay.
Any reportable actions from closed session?
The board did authorize county council to initiate litigation. The parties and the subject matter of that will become public after it is filed. Thank you.
And I apologize, Joel. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. We have items 1 through 13. Yes. What else did I forget?
Can I just have Joel tell me if there was a vote on that, and if there was, who made the motion in the second? Or if it was just by consensus?
It was by consent.
Consensus.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? Okay. One more time. Consent agenda items 1 through 13. I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second. So at this time, we'll take public comment on consent agenda items only. Kylie, do we have any written at all that came in?
Chair, Vice Chair, I don't have anything written, and I'm not seeing anybody with their hands raised at this time.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and pull the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowan?
Yes. Okay, we're not quite ready for our scheduled items. So let's go on to general government. We have a discussion to take possible action on canceling the scheduled November 24th board meeting due to the holiday.
I'd move to approve, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Supervisor. Any public comment on item number 16?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Thank you. Can you go ahead and pull the vote for us, please?
Did we have some discussion on this, Madam Chair?
Sure.
I'm not going to support this. The public sees too little of us as we stand. It's on a Tuesday, the 24th. I appreciate the fact that Thursday is Thanksgiving, but we have too few meetings where the public actually has access to it. So I'm not going to be in support of eliminating this the second meeting in November.
Thank you for the comment. Is there any other comments from board members? Okay, seeing none and seeing nothing from the community, can you go ahead, Kylie, and pull the vote?
Supervisor Gitlin?
No.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowan?
Yes. Moving on to item 17. We're going to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as a Board of Equalization and approve the assessment appeal withdrawal application for APN 124-110-006 as requested by the Assessor's Office. Do we have anybody on who wants to talk about this? Jay, do we have anybody who wants to, is there anybody down from the Assessor's Office?
We do have Brantley Cobb that is available if there are any questions.
Okay, board, do we have any questions regarding
Motion to
number?
approve.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any public comment?
Yes. With the number 7200, you are on?
Oh, this is Brantley at the assessor's office.
Oh, okay.
On the
Sorry,
phone
your
just
hand
in
was
case you had
raised.
questions.
Okay, does
Sorry.
anybody, it's all right. Do you have anybody have any questions for Brantley? No, we're good? Okay, Kylie, if you could please pull the vote.
Supervisor Berkowitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowan.
Yes. Okay, that brings us into budget transfers. We're going to adjourn as the Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and approve and adopt budget transfers 10-02 in the amount of $78,535 within the OES budget unit due to funds received by Cal OES as a community powers resilient allocation as requested by the Emergency Services Manager. And then we have another budget transfer of 10-03 in the amount of $77,091 within the OES budget unit to allow funds awarded to Delaware County for fiscal year 2020 Emergency Management Grant Program COVID-19 supplemental to be used to pay for time spent by county employees working for the EOC on the COVID response and to purchase equipment needed for the COVID-19 response as requested by the county administrative officer.
Move to approve as read into the record, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comment on the two budget transfers, Kylie?
Vice Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Any further communications or conversations from the board? Okay, Kylie, could you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Gitlin,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Howard,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cowan.
Yes. So is there any miscellaneous legislation budget matters that need to be discussed, CAO Serena?
And not that isn't already on the agenda.
Okay, so we have about 4 minutes. I'm going to read a proclamation that was on our consent agenda, and then maybe by then we'll be ready to take public comment. So this proclamation is honoring the Bi-National Health Week. The measure would call on all people of Delaware County to join the people of Latino origin in observing and participating in the 20th annual Bi-National Health Week to take place October 1st through 31st, 2020. Whereas the Secretariats of Health and of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, the Ministries of Foreign Affairs of Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, the Institute for Mexicans Abroad, the Mexican Social Security Institute, the United States-Mexico Border Health Commission, and the Health Initiative of the Americans, a program of the University of California at Berkeley School of Public Health, have organized the necessity of improving access to health services for the underserved Latino population in the United States of America. And whereas according to the 2014 United States Census, this county is home to more than 55 million people of Latino origin. This country, not our county, excuse me, is home to more than 55 million people of Latino origin. And whereas improving the health of mobile populations requires multiple approaches in service, design, delivery, funding priorities, and most fundamentally requires strong binational commitment. And whereas in October of 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, the Health Initiative of the Americas and partnering organizations convened the first 9 binational health weeks, an unprecedented effort overseen by multi-agency task force, which conducted health promotion and education activities for the underserved Latino population in the United States. And over 1 million people benefited from the healthcare activities. And whereas Binational Health Week reflects coordinated efforts between the United States, Mexico, Canada, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru to improve the quality of life of underserved populations by expanding their access to healthcare, increasing their health insurance coverage, and reducing their unmet health needs. And whereas the Health Initiative of the Americas and the consular work of the United States of Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru are coordinating the 9th annual Binational Health Week and activities throughout the country, and will be centered in the regions with a high level of community health needs. And whereas Del Norte County acknowledges the many organizations and volunteers collaborating in the organization of health fairs and educational health workshops. And whereas Binational Health Week provides an opportunity to highlight critical health issues in Del Norte County and throughout the United States, and will serve as a basis for future bilateral efforts. And whereas Del Norte County is committed to reorganizing or recognizing and honoring those observances that are dedicated to the best ideals of public services, and Binational Health Week is one such worthy observance. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors that in honor of those efforts to improve public health, October 1st through 31st, 2020 be declared the 20th annual Binational Health Month throughout Del Norte County, passed and adopted this 27th day of October, signed by Lori Cowan, Vice Chair, Board of Supervisors. Thank you for letting me read that. And now we will move on to scheduled items in our agenda and open it up for our public comment period. Members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up the matter. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Kylie?
Vice Chair, I have a written public comment and I also have somebody raising their hand. Do you want me to do the written first or do you want me to take
Please.
online?
Go ahead and do the written first. Thank you.
This one is from Mr. Jeff L. McCadden. And it says, it has come to the notice of our community that your County Administrative Officer, Jay Serena, authorized up to $40,000 to advertise your recent 1% tax increase measure. It has also come to our attention that Mr. Serena made this expenditure without public hearing or Board of Supervisors vote during open meeting, though a signature of board approval is on the contract. It has also come to our attention that the Emergency Services Manager, Kimmy Scott, made claims in an advertising announcement using her public department title in an attempt to sway the vote in favor of the tax increase. What are we to see next from our county government? Will you use public money to support the candidacy of public officials? Our county financial resources must not be used to sway votes during an election. Not only did the county use public funds to influence an election, but it was done surreptitiously. Mr. Serena and whoever signed for the Board of Supervisors must be held accountable and reimburse the county for the full amount paid for these advertisements. They should also resign from their posts for attempting to sway the public of a public election through the unauthorized use of public funds. Likewise, Kimmy Scott should resign for using her public office to make claims in an attempt to sway a public election. This community receives emergency bulletins under the authority of her department through the same robocall method used for this advertisement. How many unsuspecting citizens consider this to be an emergency plea to support the tax measure for their own survival? I do not expect any action to be taken by your board. Ethics is a non-issue in Del Norte County, as is the observance of the law itself. Indeed, as was written long ago, there is no law north of the eel and no God north of the Klamath. Respectfully, Mr. Jeff L. McCadden.
Thank you. And do you have some hands raised? Yeah.
Linda, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to thank Madam Chair for clarifying the Latino population. You were starting to sound a little bit like your buddy, Joe Biden. This 1 cent sales tax, I think people would have been a little bit more appreciative of it if you folks would have taken the time to tell us what you're going to spend it on, not just, superficially, well, it's going to be spent on roads, police, or the fire. But because we all know that tax money is going into a general fund and you can use it for just about anything. With that said, this is why the city and county want you to vote yes on measures S and R, which is a permanent tax. The pool manager is paid $108,000 annually. The county administrator, $197,000. The county planning director, $183,000. The city manager, $162,000. Excuse me. The county sheriff, $175,000, and all county and city police officers make well over $100,000 annually. To you folks out there, vote no on measures S and R. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sutter. Kylie, do we have anything else?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised, Vice Chair.
Okay. And with that, we will move on. We've got, we're right at 10:30. And we have an update from Dr. Raywald, and I see that he's on. Dr. Raywald, good morning.
Good morning. My update today is going to be very brief. There isn't really a lot of news. The numbers statewide, nationwide are widely available. I'm not going to try and repeat all of that. We've had a pretty steady diet of cases. Nothing really has changed very much. The biggest news was the release of a new antigen testing system that we've received our first delivery of. It's called Binax Now. Last week, we sent out a bulletin to the healthcare providers and also a link to a survey that they could take to express whether they're interested in getting this product into their offices, especially rural health centers, emergency departments, Open Door, United Health Services. So we're waiting to get some response and some feedback from them. It's kind of a very simple test. It's got a pretty good agreement with PCR testing, and the answers that we get are much quicker. And it's designed for people who have symptoms and suspect they might have COVID. So we think it's a step in it's kind of a big step in the right direction for diagnosing COVID cases. We're waiting to see how much interest there is in the community about this. I think we're not going to change our tier status either direction. Things pretty much steady course at the moment, so I don't really have much else to tell you today. Be happy to entertain any questions.
Board, do we have any questions for the doctor while he's on?
Yes, Dr. Raywald, thanks for joining us again today and keeping us up to date. It's always concerning for small rural communities, as we've discussed last week, that it's very difficult for us to change our tiers with the current metrics that are in place. And the California State Association of Counties Rural Caucuses have been in discussion with Dr. Galley now for the last 3.5 weeks to try to change some of the metrics as it relates to potential hospitalizations, but in addition, add a new metric in, which is basically a death metric, which for California may seem appropriate given California's very low morbidity as it relates to COVID at this time, especially when you consider the number of folks that have been captured through track and trace. And I'm wondering if you could opine on that just a little for our folks, both on the metrics that you and I have discussed, which is hospitalizations, but in addition, a death metric, and your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, the metrics that you use to decide when enough is enough and when you have too much going on, it's pretty flexible. The problem with the death metric is it's almost like it's waiting too late. You really want to catch trends before they start producing people sick enough to be in the hospital and perhaps die from this virus. That's my only real concern about it. I think overall, over the long term, it's a very good metric to look at. And most small counties have a very good track record in terms of fatalities from COVID. I personally think that hospitalization rate is very important, and that's also kind of a long-term metric. And again, there's hesitation, I think, at higher levels about depending on hospitalizations alone, because when you start to see changes in hospitalization rate, it really means that the virus activity has changed in your community in a way that's going to be harder to contain. So I understand the position of higher level authorities at the state level or even at the level of the federal government about that. But having said that, I also think it's a good metric to look at long-term containment strategies, because if you have a very low hospitalization rate and a relatively high case count, it means that the people who need to stay home and really keep isolation just preventively are doing that. They're taking the stay-at-home idea to heart and continuing that. Otherwise, you'd probably see more people getting exposed and getting severely ill and ending up in the hospital. So it's partly a measure of how good the messaging has been and how seriously the community is taken that message about the risk to the very vulnerable people. So in that sense, I think it is a good way to measure how well a county is doing. There's going to be some trial and error on these metrics, I think, during the rest of the pandemic. And I think for smaller counties, using a different approach makes a lot of sense because our experience is different. But I understand the hesitancy, and those are the reasons for not relying entirely on those as measurements of a county's progress. I think small counties would be better served by having that as an additional metric, either hospitalization rate or possibly even death rate, as an additional metric to look at as to how well we're doing compared to other places in the state.
Yeah, we're certainly driving that in discussions at the state level. So if you consider our current purple, red, yellow, orange type metrics and status, to add a certain number of exemptions for those rural counties where those could be considered, and hopefully we'll see some movement. I was also interested, and I know we haven't been able to experiment with this a lot here because of our low hospitalization rate, but as I look nationally, we're in the state of California, it seems like we're getting better at treating potentially the virus. Is to your knowledge, at least within our surrounding counties or even this community, are our doctors aware or have access to some of the treatments now being utilized to treat for COVID?
They should have access to everything that's pretty much standard across the nation. I mean, that really means for critically ill people using dexamethasone or similar agents, supportive care, remdesivir. The hospital, I believe, has some remdesivir in stock at the moment, but they haven't had to use it. So, yeah, I mean, they have the basics in hand, and the knowledge base, the clinical management of this, there's a lot of new information, a lot of expertise out there, and that's all being shared with clinicians who do hospital work. Honestly, there's probably people in the county who understand clinical management a lot better than I do, because I'm not doing any hospital work or even clinical work anymore. It's public health alone. So yeah, I think it's out there. I don't think we're any different from anyone else. We don't have a lot of experience because we haven't had a lot of cases. And that direct one-to-one experience with active cases does educate people quite a bit, because it makes a difference if you have to do it for real. We've had a few cases here, I'm glad we don't have very many, but it does make a difference if you've had a lot of experience with this disease.
Sure. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Rewalt, can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
You may have heard that CDCR San Quentin has a major COVID problem, and they're going to empty out that prison in short order, and the healthy patients are going to be dispersed to the other 34 institutions around the state. Pelican Bay is anticipating about 20 to 30 new level 2 inmates, healthy inmates. Can you share with the public the protocol in transferring these inmates from San Quentin to Pelican Bay State Prison and the security measures undertaken?
Well, if they follow the current protocol, I don't think they would deviate from that. They would be tested before they depart, and I believe they get tested twice. And despite that, they would still be put in quarantine on arrival. And the Pelican Bay has the ability to test people as well during that quarantine period. I'm not really too worried about transfers anymore because I think CDCR has ramped up their protocols and their algorithms and everything they're supposed to follow, especially with regard to testing and quarantine of transferees. Pelican Bay still has a really good record. So I'm not too concerned if that's the purpose of the question. But it's a world of difference compared to the status of transfers at the beginning of the pandemic. It was a different experience for the prison environment then. But I think they're doing a really good job out there. So I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
You bet.
Supervisor Berkowitz, do you have any questions?
I'm fine.
Okay. And as always, Dr. Raywald, thank you for all of the work that you're doing. We do appreciate you very much.
And I appreciate the support.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Kylie, did I miss anything?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure if this is appropriate or not, but I know the board generally does not respond to public comment, but I do believe there needs to be some clarification on the statement that was read because it puts in light non-factual issues. I mean,
right.
The statement that was read was not factual. And whether our CEO or one of us clarifies that for the public that's at large in the audience or listening by phone or watching later on YouTube, that needs to be clarified. I mean, I don't want to let comments like that stand that aren't factual. So
I hear you. And we do get that from time to time quite often. Well, more often than I'd like to see. So CAO Serena, would you like to clarify? I believe he's talking about public comment, what was read into by Kylie, as well as some other comments, and clarify how that all came about with the facts sheet that was put out.
Sure. The information that was submitted is factual. It does not promote a support or opposition position in regards to the election. The contract that was signed by me. I have spending authority to $50,000 under the government code. We went through a process of finding a consultant that could help guide us through that process. We've had everything reviewed in regards to the factual information through county council. And again, I think, as far as the bottom line point is that there are campaigns out there. This is not a campaign under the FEBC. This is straight information to the voters, which, as we discussed prior to this even being placed before the board or on the next ballot, the actions of the board, information is important. And when you place something on a ballot, and I would hope that people would not disagree with the fact that information is provided to our residents, and that suppressing that information is certainly, to me, would be it would be opposite of what we stand for in regards to a democracy. I mean, when you as far as the information to the public through the contract, it is strictly that. It is not a support or opposition. So, unless there's other details the board would like, I would leave it at that.
no, I appreciate that clarification, CEO Serena. It's difficult to sometimes let those kind of things go by. And I just want to make sure that folks were aware that this board did approve for that to take place. And it wasn't made unilaterally by yourself.
Well, I would say that the board did not take an action in a public hearing. It's not required to, but it is in support of placing it on the agenda. And that was my decision, and I did sign the contract.
Thank you.
Thank you, CAO Serena. Okay, with that, we will adjourn, and our next meeting is on November 10th. We'll see everybody there, and have a great week.
Thank you.